It was 2 in the morning, down in the maintenance sub-basement of the most expensive private hospital in the city. The air down there always smelled like copper and old standing water. A 7-year-old girl in a hospital gown was wandering barefoot across the cold concrete. She was supposed to be in the VIP pediatric wing, on the 12th floor. Instead, she was standing behind a man in grease-stained overalls. His name was Leo, and he was supposed to be checking the pressure valves on the main water line. But right now, his heavy wrench was sitting on the floor. In his lap was a beat-up laptop, hooked into a makeshift water filtration system he had built himself. His rough fingers were flying across the keyboard, typing out lines of complex biological algorithms. The little girl tilted her head and looked at the glowing screen. "My mom is paying $5 million just to find someone who can solve that code," she said. Her voice was small, but it echoed off the metal pipes. Leo stopped typing. He did not panic or scramble to hide what he was doing. He just closed the laptop with a soft click and gave her a warm, easy smile. "Well, sometimes the most expensive things are hidden in the places people forget to look," he said gently. "If you believe that real heroes do not always wear capes, but sometimes wear stained work clothes, hit that subscribe button to walk with us through stories about true value." Before we get into what happened next, you need to understand exactly what was threatening this little girl. She was suffering from a highly aggressive and incredibly rare metabolic syndrome. The hospital where her mother was the CEO was running out of time. Their state-of-the-art artificial intelligence system kept crashing every time they tried to calculate the exact serum dosage needed to stabilize her. It was a race against the clock, and the machine was losing. But Leo was not just a guy who fixed leaky pipes. To the rest of the world, he was invisible. To his young son waiting for him back at their small apartment, he was a superhero. Leo was a single dad who lived life with an infectious positive energy. He was charismatic, always smiling, and never afraid of failure. During the day, he spent hours on their apartment roof, teaching his son how to grow vegetables and raise fish in an aquaponics system. He used the plants and the fish to teach the boy about patience, balance, and the cycles of life. But when his son went to sleep, Leo went to work on something else entirely. He was an incredibly fast learner, with a deep passion for digital finance and online business models. Over the years, he had quietly built a massive global digital ecosystem from his living room. He was completely financially free. He did not need the minimum wage paycheck this hospital gave him. He only took the night shift to maintain direct physical access to the main servers. He just wanted to keep a quiet eye on something he had lost a long time ago. He was a man who let his actions speak louder than his words. He lived by a simple rule of doing exactly what he said he would do. That quiet peace was shattered when the heavy metal door to the basement banged open. Elena, the hospital CEO, marched in with 2 security guards flanking her. Her designer heels clicked sharply against the damp floor. She looked panicked, but the moment she saw her daughter standing next to Leo, her fear turned instantly into rage. She grabbed the little girl by the arm and pulled her back like Leo was carrying a disease. "What are you doing talking to him?" she snapped at her daughter. "Do not let his poverty infect you. People like this are failures, who only know how to stare at dirty pipes. They will never understand the value of real intellect or hard work." She glared at Leo with absolute disgust. "Get back to your mop before I have you thrown out on the street," she hissed. Leo did not raise his voice. He did not defend himself or try to explain the laptop he had just tucked behind a toolbox. He just looked at her with a calm, steady expression. He knew that silence is always the strongest answer when you are dealing with arrogance. There will be times in your life when people judge you purely by your cover. If you are out there working hard and refusing to let anyone else define your worth, drop a comment saying, "I will not give up as a promise to yourself today." Elena carried her daughter away, leaving Leo alone in the damp quiet of the basement. He just shook his head and went back to checking the pressure valves. He knew that arrogance usually comes with a very heavy price tag. He did not have to wait long to see the bill come due. About an hour later, the emergency alarm started blaring across the 12th floor. The heavy red lights spun in the stairwells, casting long shadows down into the basement. The little girl's condition had just taken a massive turn for the worse. Up in the glass-walled conference room, the entire medical board was in a state of absolute panic. Their core predictive algorithm had completely locked up. It was refusing to output the necessary dosage for the experimental serum. The leading specialists were shouting at the IT directors. The IT directors were frantically typing on their keyboards, sweating through their expensive suits. Nothing was working. They were minutes away from losing the CEO's daughter, and $5 million worth of tech could not save her. Down in the basement, Leo could hear the chaos echoing through the ventilation shafts. He pulled his beat-up laptop back out from behind the toolbox. He flipped it open, and the blue light caught the grease smudges on his cheeks. He tapped into the main server, using a backdoor he had built himself years ago. He looked at the failing code on the screen and smiled softly. It was a problem of ecological balance. The algorithm was treating the human body like a machine instead of a living, breathing ecosystem. He applied the exact same principles he used to keep the fish and the plants alive on his apartment roof. It was all about input, output, and natural harmony. His fingers moved across the keyboard in a blur of focused energy. He was doing in 15 minutes what a room full of highly paid experts could not do in a week. Do not ever be afraid to fail, because your true abilities will always speak up when things get hardest. If you believe in your own quiet strength, drop a comment saying, "I will not give up," right now. Leo finished the final line of code and hit execute. He transferred the stabilized algorithm onto a blank silver USB drive. He wiped the grease off his hands and walked out of the basement. Up on the 12th floor, the medical team was completely out of options. A young nurse was standing outside the glass doors, crying, because she knew what was about to happen. Leo walked up to her and gently placed the silver drive into her hand. "Plug this into the main terminal right now," he said quietly. He did not wait for her to ask questions. He just turned around and walked back toward the elevator. The nurse rushed inside and shoved the drive into the main port. Instantly, the red error screens across the room turned a calm, steady green. The system rebooted and immediately output the exact micro-measurements needed for the serum. Within minutes, the little girl's breathing leveled out. The color started coming back to her pale cheeks. The room collectively let out a breath. They felt like they had been holding for an hour. Elena collapsed into a chair, crying in absolute relief. But as the panic faded, a new question took over the room. The chief medical officer looked at the screen in disbelief. Who just rewrote 10 years of machine learning in 15 minutes? He asked. Elena immediately marched to the security room to pull the hallway camera footage. She expected to see a rival tech CEO or a phantom consultant her board had hired in secret. Instead, she saw the man in the dirty overalls walking away from the pediatric ward. She saw the maintenance worker she had just insulted in the basement. Her heart dropped into her stomach. She ordered security to pull up his employment file immediately. When the file loaded onto the screen, the room went dead silent. His name was not just Leo, the night shift plumber. It was Leonard Vance. He was the original chief architect of the very medical AI they were using 8 years ago. Elena's father had manipulated the corporate board to steal Leo's patents and force him out of the industry entirely. They had left him with nothing. They assumed he would just disappear and eventually become a nobody. But Leo did not waste his life seeking revenge. He chose to step away from the toxic corporate world to raise his son in peace. He built his own financial empire from his living room, using his brilliant mind to trade and code on his own terms. He came back to work the night shift here, simply because he wanted to keep a quiet eye on the system he had built. He wanted to make sure it was actually saving lives. The moment the truth is finally revealed is always reserved for those who stay patient. If you believe in keeping your faith during hard times, drop a comment saying, "I will not give up." Elena did not wait for the elevator. She practically ran down the concrete stairs. Her expensive suit was wrinkled, and she was out of breath. By the time she pushed the heavy metal door open, Leo was packing up his tools. His shift was over. Elena walked toward him, and for the first time in her life, she did not look down on someone. She looked at him with sheer terror and overwhelming guilt. She pulled a blank checkbook from her pocket. With shaking hands, "I can give you your old job back as Chief Technology Officer," she said. "I can write you a check for $5 million right now. Just please do not expose what my family did to you." Leo did not reach for the check. He did not even look at it. He gently closed his toolbox and slung it over his shoulder. He reached over and tilted his laptop screen toward her. Elena gasped. On the screen was a live dashboard of his personal trading accounts and private servers. He was generating more passive income in a week than her hospital paid its executives in a year. "I do not need your money, Elena," he said softly. "I never did. I saved your daughter tonight. Because a child's life is priceless. My intellect is not for sale to serve your arrogance. Money cannot buy character or class. If you put your family and your self-respect above any price tag, leave a comment saying, 'I will not give up.'" Elena stood frozen in the damp basement, realizing that the man she called a failure was infinitely more successful than she could ever hope to be. She realized that the poorest thing about her was her own personality. The sun was just starting to rise as Leo walked out the back doors of the hospital. His young son was waiting for him by the bus stop, holding a small backpack. The boy ran up and hugged him tight. "Dad, where are we going today?" the boy asked with a bright smile. Leo laughed and ruffled his son's hair. "We are going home to feed the fish, buddy," he said. "And then, I am going to teach you a lesson about real wealth." They walked away together into the morning light, leaving the massive hospital behind them. The greatest success in life is not making other people bow down to you. It is being able to smile and walk freely alongside the people you love. If you believe in that kind of freedom, comment "I will not give up" and share this story with someone who needs a little motivation today. Real people wrote these scripts with passion and purpose to spark reflection and change. AI was merely a helpful tool that polished the delivery, making sure profound, yet practical messages about respect, redemption, and human dignity reached as many hearts as possible.